ओम अखंडम सच्चिदानंदम अवांगमनसगोचरम आत्मानम अखिलाधारम आश्रये भीष्टसिद्धये. Here we are studying Sri Shankaracharya's Veda. No, I'm sorry. We are studying Sadananda Yati's Vedanta Sar. The best primer on Vedanta. It's a Prakaran Grantha. That means it deals more with the nature of the reality. And there we are studying the Anubandha Chatushtaya. That means 4 things which should be awakened in the mind while studying any scripture. And they are named as Adhikari, Vishaya, Sambandha, and Prayojan. Adhikari means for whom is this? Who shall benefit? Nothing external, but the mental qualities. Vishaya, the subject matter, if it is not known earlier, then digressive study happens. Sambandha, how to study. Vishaya means what we have to study. Sambandha means how to study so that the purpose of our life is fulfilled. And the prayojan means the purpose of our life, we should be the same as the purpose of our studying this Vedanta. And while dealing with this, we are dealing with Adhikari. We are dealing with the fitness or for whom is this going on. And in that, we were told that he should have done Nitya Karma. He should be doing Nitya Naimittika Prayaschitta Upasana. And in that line, he comes to the study of Vedanta and he should possess Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shat Sampatti and Mumukshutva, of which again Viveka and Vairagya were explained. This is the context of where we stand. And in the 18th sentence which we studied lastly, the other qualifications which he should have been enumerated. We read it again. Shamadayastu, Shama Dhamma Uparati Titiksha Samadhana Shraddhakya. Akya means this is the name. These are the 6 names of the characteristics which should be earned by the seeker after truth. And now, Sadananda Yati explains one by one. He defines in a beautiful way. Shamas Tavat. Tavat means we should not have our ideas of Shama, but listen to what Sadananda Yati is telling. So he says Shamas Tavat. Shravanadi Vyatirikta Vishayabhyo Manaso Nigraha. Beautiful, beautiful. Shama does not mean stopping the mind. Shama means controlling the mind. Controlling does not mean stopping. Controlling means properly directing. Properly directing the energies of the mind. Properly directing the direction where the mind should go. And here he says, Shravanadi Vyatirikta Vishayabhyo. Shravanadi means that has not yet come. We will explain that later on. Shravanadi means Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. That means we have to listen to the Vedantic teachers, Vedantic scriptures. That is the most important thing in our Vedantic sadhana is Shravana. And that has to be made firm in our mind. We have to reflect that truth on all our thinking, feeling and will. That is called Manana. And then we have to have a sort of meditation called Nididhyasana, where the Brahman has already come in our conception. Apart from that, whatever arises has to be removed. This makes Shravanadi. Now, Vyatirikta. Anything other than this, mind should not go to. Vishayabhyo. Objects other than Shravan Manandhyasan, Manaso Nigraha. Controlling the mind from not allowing it to go to other objects other than Shravan Manan Nididhyasana. So beautifully positive definition he has given. It is not just stopping the mind, but directing the mind to the purpose of life, which we are going to achieve through Shravan, Manan and Nididhasan. Other than that, nothing should be in the mind. That is Shamastavat. Dhamma normally is a physical control, but there also he uses the same type of definition. Dhamma. He has already said Shamastavat, so he does not repeat that in Dhamma. Dhammastavat actually means Bhaya Indriyanam Tad Vyatirikta Vishayabhyo Nivartanam. Bhaya Indriya. Bhaya Indriya means we have 10 organs, 5 sensory organs, 5 motor organs. That means the organ of hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, smelling, the organ of hand, feet, speech, and the 2 lower organs. No, they should not be stopped, but they should also be directed to Shravanadi. Now, how to direct the external organs to Shravanadi? Here we can direct to listen to the Vedantic talks. But how all other organs are to be directed? So one must expand this idea of Shravanadi. Some people undertake pilgrimages. So the feet are being directed to a place where we shall get the Shravan Manan Nididhasan. Hands are there to hold the book in hand for Shravan Manan Nididhasan or for worshipping. Eyes are there to see the Guru, see the scripture, read the scripture. What to do by the tongue? All organs is feeling. So by the tongue, what to be done? The tongue as organ of action. We have to talk of that. That is organ of action. And tongue as the organ of taste. Now what we can taste? So the Shravanadi has to be expanded. And those who believe in worship and pujas, so what they taste? They taste the prasad or the tirtha, charnamrut, that increases the tendency to do Shravan by Ekagrata. So wonderful definition is this. Tad Vyatirikta. Tad Vyatirikta means Shravana Manana, Shravanadi Vyatirikta. Because in the previous, it connects with the previous sentence. That means what is told in the previous sentence. That is Shravanadi. So we have to, unless we expand the definition of Shravanadi because of Adi, we cannot understand, we cannot catch what is Sadhandaiti's drift. So the 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action are to be directed to those things which will make our mind concentrated towards Shravan Manan Nididhasan. Whatever makes our mind concentrated towards Shravan Manan Nididhasan, those actions have to be undertaken by the organs of perception and organs of action. That Vyatirikta Vishayabhyo. Other than that, the objects which are of tempting type, which are of digressive type, Nivartanam. Our organs should be reverted from going to anything which is not conducive to our sadhana of Shravan Manan Nididhasan. Then Uparati. For Uparati, it gives 2 definitions. Nivartitanam etesham tad vyatirikta vishayabhyo uparamanam uparati athava vitanam karmanam vidina parityaga. Nivartitanam etesham. That means both the mind and the organs have been taken away from tad vyatirikta vishayabhya, from all the objects other than Shravan Manan Nididhasan and conducive to Shravan other object, we have reverted our mind and the organs from them, Uparamanam. Now they should not again go towards that. Uparamanam means let them rest. Let them rest now. Go only towards Shravan Mananidasan. So once they have been withdrawn, they should not be allowed to go out again. That is Uparati. Other definition, Maharashtrians please. This is the common definition used in Maharashtra. The second definition is that is giving. He had Uparati. What he did? He left Sansar and went and became a sannyasi. That is the common language in Maharashtra. And that Sadandayati, not because of Maharashtra, but that Sadandayati is using as the second definition. Vihitanam karmanam. That means the Vedas or the other people had told us to do certain works. Vihitanam karmanam. Vidina parityaga. A formal ceremonious renunciation. That means what we call the sannyasa diksha. A formal renunciation of the prescribed activity which we were doing previously. That is the Uparati. And the Uparati means here clearly a formal vidhi, formal ritual of taking up sannyasa. That is the second meaning of Uparati. Then Titiksha. Titiksha, Shitoshnadi Dvanda Saishnuta is very important. Some people wrongly understand Titiksha means Shitoshna Saishnuta. That means they practice in the Ganges. During winter, they will stand in the Ganges. And during hot summer, they will lie on the sand near the Ganges. But this is only physical aspect of tapasya. Saitoshnadi Dvanda. This world compulsorily consists of a dual throng. Shitoshna is there, Sukha Dukha is there, pleasure and pain are there, honor and dishonor are there, praise and blame is there. That is the very nature of this world. And here some important things I want to share. We should not think that the world praises us for our qualities and blames us for our defects. No, no, no. It depends upon the eyes of the people. Same thing is praised and same thing is blamed. And we should not allow our mind to be affected by that. Common example is that among the sannyasis, some keep away from society, especially from women. This is praised by some people. See how Vairagi he is. He does not talk to women even. He does not look to even toward the women. Or he does not mix with society. Other people will say, what a sannyasi is? Antisocial, unsocial, not mixing with anybody, egoistic. Now there are other types of sannyasis. They are generally social, they mix with everybody, they do not hate anybody, they behave sweetly with everybody. This is praised by some people. See, he is the loving sannyasi. But others will come, he is a bhogi. He wants to enjoy company. He wants to enjoy the company of women. Where will you go? So, several incidents can be told where for the same people you are being praised, for the same thing you are being blamed. That is the nature of this world, please. And in that we have to live. In that we have to practice Shravan Manan Dhyasan. And so, Shitoshna Adi Dvanda. That is called the Dvanda. Two opposite things existing together in this world. That is the nature of the world, please. And so, the sannyasi who has already taken up sannyasa or otherwise, the Vedantic sadhak has never to care for what the people say. What would he say? What would she say? That will spoil the life of the sannyasi. He should think what is proper, what helps him to grow spiritually, and he should act accordingly. So, Shitoshnadi Dvanda Sahishnuta. That means bearing this duel of the world, which is a necessary evil of this world, that the world always consists of praise and blame, always consists of honor and dishonor, always consists of pleasure and pain, always consists of heat and cold. So, this Sahishnata not being affected by this duel, he should proceed in his own way, that is Titiksha. Now, Samadhan, the sound of this word Samadhan is like contentment. But that is not what the Vedanta means at all. So far as contentment goes, he should be content with what the world has given him. But he should never be content with what he is. He has to grow. But that does not come in the sphere of this Samadhan at all. Samyak Adhan, rightly keeping. Rightly keeping. Now, if I keep something and it falls down, we call it inequilibrium. If I keep something which stays, we call it equilibrium. But equilibrium also is of two types. If I shake it a little, it will fall. That is called unstable equilibrium. But even if it is shaken, it will not fall. That is called stable equilibrium. Now the mind is there. If you keep the mind in some object, it will stay for some time. But then it will seek the change. And the object will also change. So it cannot be a stable equilibrium. But if you can put your mind in God, then it will be a stable equilibrium. So that is what Isadananda defines Nigruhitasya manasa Shravanadau tad anuguna vishayecha samadhi samadhanam. Here he has clearly told that anuguna vishaye, which was involved in that Dhamma. So Shravanadau, Shravan Mani lesson is there. That anuguna vishaye, there are several things which are conducive towards that samadhi. Nigrohitasya manasa. So this, uh, the order in which it is stated also is important. Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha. After that it talks of samadha. We have already held the mind and the organs. Mind here is mentioning. We are already holding the mind away from other objects other than Shravan, Mana, and Darshan and things conducive to them. Now we should be concentrated in that. Samadhi means concentration or absorption. Samadhi is not Nirvikalpa Samadhi here. Samadhi means concentration or absorption. So that mind which had been taken away from other objects other than Shravan, Mana, Darshan, a large scope is given. Shravan, Mana, Darshan and things conducive to them. Outside that, the mind should not go. Mind should be kept in Shravan, Manan, Dasan and things conducive to them. Mind should be concentrated there. Mind should be absorbed there. So that is called samadhi. Rightly keeping, the mind can be kept in Shravan, Manan, Dasan rightly. That is samadhanam. Shraddha. Shraddha is usually very much misunderstood. Any faith is called Shraddha? No. Guru Padishta Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasa Shraddha. Vedanta Vakya. The Rishi, experience of the Rishis told in Vedanta. And that should come from a Guru. That should come from a teacher who has realized them. And we should have faith in that. Faith means that it is true. I have to struggle and achieve that. That is called Shraddha. Shraddha means I have to achieve that. This is true. What the Vedanta telling is true. What my Guru is telling of Vedanta is true. And I have to realize that. That faith is, dynamic faith is called Shraddha. Not that somebody has come and I wash his feet and I drink the water and says I have Shraddha. Some people think I have Shraddha, I need not think. I'm not going to part detail there because the Sadandaiti also has not gone. But I'm just telling that the Shraddha is a word very much misconceived by people. Here Shraddha is very specific. Guru Padishta Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasa. And this Vishwasa should be a dynamic type. That means what they say are true. Though I am not perceiving, they are telling me the method also. I should follow that method and I will win the race. That is called Shraddha. So, he has completed three. Viveka, Vairagya and Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. Now, the last one is the most important one. As we say, the last but not the least, Mumukshutvam Mokshecha. One must feel one is bound. One must feel one is bound by the desires. One is bound by the imperfections. One is bound by the limitations. One is bound by the wants which he has. And that should produce a keen desire to get out of that. And that is given last, so it is the first also. But it is given last by because Vivek, Vairagya and Samadhi Shat Sampatti will make it real, dynamic, intense. So Mumuksha becomes real, dynamic, intense through Vivek, Vairagya and Shat Sampatti. This completes his definition of Adhikari. And then he concludes by telling, Evam Bhuta Pramata Adhikari Shanto Danta Ityadi Shrutehe. Evam Bhuta Pramata. So we had seen that Adhikari to Pramata. Adhikari is a person capable of measuring Brahman. Adhikari is a person capable of knowing Brahman. Adhikari is a person who is capable of realizing Brahman. So he says, Evam Bhuta Pramata. Adhikari, a person of this type who has become a Pramata. A person of this type, a person who has Vivek, Vairagya, Samadhi, Sampatti and Mumukshutva, the person of this type is Pramata. This is Adhikari. And the scriptures also have said so. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says Shanto Danta Ityadi. That means all these qualities are enumerated in scriptures also. Uktancha. Shankara's book is there, Upadesha Sahasri. From there he quotes Prashanta Chittaya, Jitendriyaya, Prahina Doshaya, Yathokta Karine, Gunanvitaya, Anugataya, Sarvada, Pradeyametat Satatam Mamukshave iti. So the Guru should give it to one who is peaceful in mind, one who has control over his organs, one who is not given to faults or doshas, one who is obedient, one who understands what the Guru is telling and does according to that, one who has the required qualities to make him a fit disciple, Anugataya, one who is submissive to the Guru. Sarvada, always, this knowledge has to be given to the mumukshu of such a type. That is what Upadesha Sahasri has told us. Now, Adhikari was a part of Anubandha Chatushtaya. And the next topic in some Anubandha is Vishaya. Here again, Sadanandeti has the best definition. We will remember what he told about the definition of Vedanta itself. He had told Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. When Upanishads are used as a means of knowledge, then they are called Vedanta. Similarly, here he says Vishaya, Jiva Brahmaikam, Shuddha Chaitanyam Prameyam. Tatra eva Vedantanam Tatparyat. Jiva Brahmaikam, Shuddha Chaitanyam Prameyam. Prameyam. Prameyam means to be realized. What it means? Brahman is not the subject matter of Vedanta. The nature of Jiva is not the subject matter of Vedanta. The identity between Jiva and Brahman is not the subject matter of Vedanta, but realization of the identity between Jiva and Brahman is the subject matter of Vedanta. Beautiful. Jiva Brahmaikam Shuddha Chaitanyam Prameyam. It is to be realized. And so, if Jiva and Brahman are identical, then why the names? The name Jiva and Brahman will be dropped because Jiva and Brahman apparently are not identical. When we take the intended meaning, then only they are identical. Then these two names should not remain. So what should remain? Shuddha Chaitanyam. Shuddha Chaitanyam, consciousness pure. That means consciousness only. Only consciousness. Of course, other things are associated with that. Only consciousness means existence consciousness, please. But that consciousness alone to be realized. Wherein Jiva and Brahman are identical. Jiva and Brahman are identical when they are represent only consciousness. And that has to be realized. This is the subject matter of Vedanta. How do you say so? Do we not find several things in Vedanta? Do we not find cosmology or this or that in Vedanta? So he says, Tatra eva Vedantanam Tatparyat. Vedantanam used in plural means in all the Upanishads, Tatparya we have to see. Where it is leading us to ultimately, that is called Tatparya. Any topic of discussion, where it is taking us to ultimately, that is called Tatparya. You find any passage of Vedanta, and we have to find where it is leading us to. Finally, we will find that it is leading us to the realization of identity between Jiva and Brahman, which is only pure consciousness. So this is the full statement. This Tatparya is very important. We must see where it is leading us to. I remember here some great thing. My Guruji, when he was teaching anything spiritual, Karma Yoga or Lila Prasanga or Upanishad or Gita, he would not end the class with that particular topic. He would say, then he goes further. Then there is further progress. Then he goes to Ambramasmi. Then he realizes the truth. He would end every class by concluding that ultimately you will realize the absolute truth. Then only the class was over. So that is the Tatparya, where it is ultimately leading us to. We have a great example on that. So that is the subject matter. Adhikari Vishaya Sambandha. Here again, Sadandaiti has very special way of telling us, which is very, very important. And here he has the word tu. Sambandhastu. Tu means don't imagine Sambandha. I will tell you what is Sambandha. That is named by word tu. Sambandhastu Prameyasya Tat Pratipadaka Upanishad Pramanasya Cha Bodhya Bodhaka Bhava. Both the words he has drawn here. Tad Aikya Prameya. What has to be realized? The identity between Jiva and Brahman is to be realized. That Pratipadaka Upanishad Praman. And the means of realizing that is the Upanishads. And here is so Pratipadaka. Pratipadaka means they are describing that. Normally, in books of Vedanta, you will find the Sambhadana as Pratipadya Pratipadak. Pratipadya Pratipadak. That means the thing denoted and that thing which denotes that. So then it differs from that. He said, all right, accepted. Pratipadak is there, Upanishad. Upanishad is describing the realization of the identity between you and Brahman. But bodhya bodhaka bhava. What is bodhya? That consciousness has to be aroused. This is the meaning of the word bodhya. Bodhaka means the Upanishads or the Vedanta is trying to arouse that consciousness in a unique definition and important definition. He does not leave out telling it is Pratipadya Pratipadak. He said the Pratipadya Pratipadak is there. It tells about that which has to be told. But this telling about the thing to be told is such that it will arouse that consciousness in us. Bodhya bodhaka bhava. Bodhya bodhaka. That means that consciousness shall be roused in us and it will rise it. That is bodhaka. Bodhya bodhaka bhava is the unique way in which Sanandayati is telling, and that is why that book is the best primer on Vedanta. Understood, please? Sambandha means how to study, that the teacher is trying to awaken the consciousness in us, rouse the consciousness in us, and we, by listening, must see that our consciousness is roused, awakened, or that is the what the teacher is telling us. Teacher is not only stating, teacher is not only defining the reality, teacher is trying to awaken the consciousness in us about the identity which is to be realized. And we must listen in such a way that our consciousness is aroused. That is the most important point. How to study? In such a way that our consciousness of the identity will be aroused. Because the teacher is trying to arouse that consciousness. That is the Bodhya Bodhaka Bhava, and that is the how to study Sambandha. Then the last is Prayojan. The very purpose of this, I told you, this is not first and last, for to be counted. Prayojan, some people think it is the best. It is the first. Then only we can understand Adhikari Vishaya Sambandha. Sambandha means prayojan to be achieved. How to study so that the prayojan will be achieved. So, these four are not orderly four, but they are four in number, and something has to be described before the other. So now, lastly but not least, he is describing prayojanam too. The purpose of life, we should be same as purpose of studying Vedanta, but it is that aikya prameyagata ajnana nivrutti. Prameya again he has brought. The identity to be realized, there is an obstruction, and that obstruction is ajnana. He has not yet defined ajnana, but we can understand wrong knowledge. There is wrong knowledge about the identity, nivrutti. That wrong knowledge has to be removed. Why is it described in such a way? We are not to achieve something which we do not have. The Vedanta does not ask us to achieve something which we do not have. We have to remove the obstruction, and self-evident it will be. The identity between Jiva and Brahman is not to be created by us or by Vedanta. It is already there, but we are not conscious of it. So the consciousness has to be aroused. And so the purpose is not to achieve something new, but the wrong knowledge has to go. Today, when we think of Jiva and Brahman, we cannot experience their identity because wrong knowledge is there. We feel we are Jivas living in this world of objects. Brahman is some ruler or somebody separate. So, wrong knowledge has to be removed. That is the purpose. When wrong knowledge is removed, what will happen? We shall be what we really are. And again, something more, Swaswarupananda Vaptischa. The world has pleasures, and the pleasures are always accompanied by displeasure. The world has happiness, always associated with unhappiness. But there is a bliss in our own nature. There is a bliss in our own nature. When we are in deep sleep, neither organs are functioning nor the mind. But we have the greatest happiness available in the world in deep sleep. If we do not have deep sleep for 3-4 days, we will come mad. Where from this happiness comes? Happiness or bliss rather is our own nature. When the indriyas are not working, when the mind is not working, on the non-working mind, the bliss which is our own nature reflects, and that we enjoy. So in deep sleep, we are always happy. We are not to remain in deep sleep, always we cannot remain. But deep sleep is showing us that our own real nature is bliss. That bliss is reflected on non-working indriyas, non-working mind, and that is the best reflection. So among the reflection, that is the best. Now the original is our own real nature. Swaswarupa, our own real nature, Ananda, the bliss of our own real nature, Avapti means obtaining, getting. It is like getting because we do not have it today. So, Ajnana Nivritti, when it happens, side by side, this is also a purpose of life. Sure. Sure means and. Another purpose of life is to get the bliss which is our own. To get the bliss which is our own nature. That is the purpose of life. And he has quoted for that, Tarati Shokam Atmavit Ityadi Shrutehe. Chandogya Upanishad, in the 7th chapter, there is Narad Sanat Kumar Samvad. And there, Narada is telling, I want to learn from you. He says, what do you know? Narada says, I know all the subjects of the world, but I do not know my real nature. And I have heard from people like you that so long as one does not know his real nature, he is always suffering. You please take me out of that misery because I have heard that Tarati Shokam Atmavid. One who knows one's real nature crosses this misery or samsara misery. So that shows that if the obstructions are removed, we shall have our bliss, which is our own real nature. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati Ityadi Shrutescha. Mundaka Upanishad is telling, if we realize the reality, we will become the reality. Realizing the reality is not some object. We are realizing the reality is our own nature. So that is, we have become. By realizing our own real nature, we have become that. And so it consists of existence, knowledge, bliss. So that bliss we are getting. And the wrong knowledge we had is going away. So that is the purpose he has described. Now, is connecting all of them together. What does this adhikari do? Ayam adhikari janana maranadi sansara nala santapto dipta shira jalarashimiva upahara pani shrotriyam brahmanishtam gurum upasrutya tam anusarati. Tad vijnanartham sa gurumeva vigachet samit pani shrotriyam brahmanishtam ityadi shrutehe. This adhikari, this fit person has become scorched by heat of the transmigratory world, which consists of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. Adi. Between birth and death, there is jara, vyadi, dukkha, all these things are there. This life, and it is transmigratory. He has to go from one to other. This has scorched him. This has heated him. How much? That is the feeling which the adhikari has. Everybody is scorched, but they do not feel it. Deepta Shira Jala Rashim Yuva. Deepta Shira. Suppose somebody's head has caught fire. Some fire is kept on the head, or the hair have caught fire, or the head has caught fire. What he seeks urgently, Jala Rashim. The one thought of such a person is to seek a sheet of water. And by immersing in that, his burning head will be cooled. Such intensity, with such intensity, the adhikari, what he does, guru goes to a guru. He does not search himself. He goes to a guru. So that also he understands that Guru Padishta Vedanta Vakeshu Shraddha had come. So he understands that my mind which works in Maya cannot lead me out of Maya. A mind which is out of Maya can lead me out of Maya. The Guru is one who knows the real nature of person. The Guru knows what is the function of Maya in this particular man's life. And so he can take him out. So this Mundaka Upanishad quotation, Shankar has practiced in his own life. We shall come to that. And the Guru should be Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. He should not be an upstart person. He should have assimilated all the Vedantas. May not be studied it, but he has assimilated Brahmanishtam and is always steady in his knowledge of Brahman. Such a Guru, he goes near it and not only goes and chit-chats it, tam anusarati. He will follow what the Guru will tell him. Then only he will realize his nature. And this Mundaka Upanishad quotation, tad vijnanartham, to know the reality, to realize the reality, Gurum eva vigachat. He must go to a Guru. Shankar explains there, the meaning of the word must is that Shastrajñopi swatantrena brahmanveshanam na kuryat. You may have become learned in the scriptures, but you should not search for Brahman independently because the mind will play tricks on you. So you must go to a Guru. And you should go with the proper attitude. Samit Pani. Samit Pani means those days Yajna was the main occupation of the sages. So they used to carry some fuel for that. These days people carry incense sticks even, flowers even. That means to carry something to show your dedication and readiness to follow the Guru. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam ityadi shrutehe. This completes what the adhikari does. Now, Saguru Paramakripaya Adhyaropa Apavada Nyayena Enam Upadishati. Now, here something very important I want to share. First is that Saguru Paramakripaya. It is out of the kindness apparent. It is because the Guru feels identified with the Shishya. So Paramakripaya, he has no other motive. Adhyaropa Apada Nyayena Enam Upadishati. What is this Adhyaropa Apad? There are two distinct definitions, and we must understand both of them. The normal people who study Vedanta will say that Adharup means superimposition. Apad means getting out of that superimposition. They will say that we have to superimpose the world on God and then tell us that the world does not exist, God alone exists. Now, please be little calm, where a very, very deep subject is there. In the Gita, 9th chapter, Shloka 4 and 5, please remember. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina mastani sarva bhutani nachaham tesha avastita nacha mastani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram bhuta bhrut nacha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavana. I am pervading in this universe, but in a form which is not visible. All the beings are in me, but I am not in them. And beings are also not in me. This is not a contradictory statement. These are the two stages. First stage is that when we are looking at the world, we should experience that it is Brahman which has filled the world. It is Brahman which is the base of the world. It is Brahman from which the world has come. It is Brahman which is appearing as this world. This is called immanence. This is called superimposition by a normal Vedanti. I am going to tell something different. It is not wrong. And once one has felt that, one should say there is no world. It is only Brahman. That is called apavada. It is only Brahman. There is no world. That is the normal definition. From immanence to go to transcendence. But there is a deeper meaning of Adhyarupapad, which I learned from my teacher, which is according to what Sri Ram Krishna has been telling us. Sri Ram Krishna has been repeatedly telling, Neti Neti Iti Iti. Neti Neti Iti Iti. We are not to superimpose world on God. It is already superimposed. We have to understand that world is a superimposition of God. That means you have to remove that. If we can understand, if we can feel or experience that the world is nothing but a superimposition of God, it means we are feeling God only. But after having felt God, we should also be aware that that very God is appearing as all this. Please follow me. First definition of Adhyarupapad is that we have to feel that the world is a superimposition on God. Just now I described the fourth and fifth shloka of the ninth chapter. Immanence has to be felt first. And when we first feel that world is a superimposition on God, then we should feel that it is God alone, not the world. But that does not complete knowledge. It is half knowledge of the world is a superimposition of God. We have done to superimpose it. We have to know that it is a superimposition, which means we have to feel the reality beyond the world. If we can know that the world is a superimposition, world is not real. Only there is the reality at the back. But reality at the back is only half knowledge. The knowledge becomes complete when we feel that that very reality is appearing as this world. Please remember, I told you, the immanence to transcendence is Gita 9th chapter. Now remember Mandukya Upanishad, the first two mantras, and Shankara's great commentary on that. Om iti etad aksharam idam sarvam. This letter or this sound Om is everything that we see, feel, touch, etc. What is this meaning of Om? That it is unreal. This is all. Om has two meanings, two parts of the meaning. That this world is unreal, it appears real because there is a reality at the back. That is transcendence, Hadaro. And in the second mantra says, all this is but Brahman. And Shankar tells there that unless we have both these ideas, the truth is not complete in us. World is unreal, there is reality at the back, is half truth. People generally associate this with the absolute truth, which is wrong. Wrong in the sense it is half truth. Only when we know that the reality which appears at the back is appearing as this world. I will tell it in another way. This world is false, this world is false, and we are searching from where this false world has come. But this world is false means it appears real because of the reality. And when we know that that reality was appearing in this world, let me illustrate. I went to some devotee's house, and in the corner of the room there was a plastic plant, green. And on that there was a plastic snake, not plastic, rubber, snake made of green rubber. And the children, out of prank, the moment I entered, they caught it and threw it on my body. For a second, or even half a second, I would have felt, but then that is not the snake, that is rubber. Now I hold that rubber in my hand. This was appearing as snake. Now snake has gone from my mind. Otherwise, the snake is false. I have to search where from it came. But this rubber appeared as snake. Now only the knowledge is complete. So, Adhyaropa Padanayana has two meanings. One is the generally accepted meaning in Vedanta. Second is the meaning which Sri Ramakrishna has told and which my Guru taught me. You understood, please? I repeat, 9th chapter of the Gita, Shlok 4 and 5. There are so many methods. So this is the method that feel that Brahman is immanent. That means this world, we are superimposing on Brahman. Whereas world, who is Brahman? Janmadi Asyayata. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Karta. And then we'll find that is neither Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Karta because there is no world. This is the normal definition given of Adhyaropa. But Sri Ramakrishna says, Neti Neti, both of them together have given Neti Neti only. That Brahman is not this, not this, not this. It's absolutely transcendent, Sarvatita. And this is half knowledge. When that which is Sarvatita is known to be Sarvagata, Sarvavyapi, that which we felt to be beyond everything is everything. Shankar's commentary on the 8th mantra of Ishopanishad, please. I have shown you the Mandukya first two mantras. There Shankar says that unless we feel that the same reality appears as this world, our knowledge will not be real or complete. In Ishopanishad, there is an expression, 8th mantra. Saparega chakrama kayam avrunam asna viram shuddhama papuidam paribhu swayambhu. Paribhu swayambhu. Paribhu means, Shankar says, upari vartate, beyond everything. And then uses a sentence as if Sri Ramakrishna sentence. Please note down those who are interested. Shankara's statement in the commentary on the 8th mantra of Ishopanishad. Paribhu means upari vartate. Then Swayambhu means Yasya upari vartate, yascha upari vartate, sa swayameva bhavati iti swayambhu. That from which it is beyond and that which is beyond, both he himself is. that from which he is beyond. That means he is beyond the world. And that which is beyond, both are he. So the world is he and transcendent also is he. This is called the Swarupa Lakshana. So I think caught by now, Adhyaropapat means immanence and transcendence, feeling the world to be superimposed and then removing that superposition and finding only Brahman. Second meaning is that to understand that the world is superimposed means to find the reality to be transcendent. And then the same reality is found to be immanent, same reality is found to be appearing as the whole world, then only the meaning becomes complete. So Adhyaropapat will be the whole topic in Vedanta Sar, but because the names have come here, I explained to you that it can be explained, it should be explained in two ways, and I think you have got by now. We can repeat it on the next one also, and for that he has given a quotation from Mundak Upanishad. Tasmai sa vidwan upasannaya samyak prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya yenaksharam purusham veda satyam provachatam tattvato brahma vidyam. In this, other purpose is not given. Only that when such a fit disciple has come, the Guru should explain to him in that way in which the real nature will shine. Tattvata Brahma Vidyam Pravacha. He should tell him in fundamental nature of the reality that only is given in the Mundaka Upanishad here. So we'll take up this Adhyaropapat again in the next class and then proceed with the details of Adhyaropapat almost throughout this Vedanta Sar, main bulk of the Vedanta Sar. Om Akhandam Satchidanandam Avagmanasa Gocharam Atmanamakiladharam Ashraye Vishta Siddhaye Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpana.